Today's video, I am just regrouping on our first 3 days of postpartum. And this is postpartum number 2 for me. And the only reason why I'm out of bed is because I just used the bathroom. So I popped down the hallway to make this video real quick. Dad is in charge of the toddler and the newborn right now. But the first 3 days of postpartum are such a whirlwind. I feel like, you know, I'm showered today, but personally, I don't make it around to showering until at least day 2. I think it was day 2. Day 1, one of my favorite things, and I've talked about it in some of my other videos, one of my favorite things to do in postpartum is an herbal bath. You kind of just do an herbal soak, and I'll post down below the one that I really like. And I like to do that one day within 24 hours of giving birth, and somebody else sets the bath up for you. Don't do it yourself, but you essentially brew the herbs on your stove in a pot, and then you fill a bathtub with hot water and then just dump the brewed, you know, I think of it like a tea, but the brewed herbs into your bath. And ideally you just get in there and you soak for like 20 to 30 minutes. And it depends on your comfort. It depends on how you're feeling. You can stay in there as long as you want. But oh my goodness, I enjoy it so much. And for mine, my cousin put the bath together, and she even set up some candles and just had like a whole mood with it. And it was so wonderful. It's such a simple thing, you know, you're just sitting in the bath, but these herbs promote healing, they promote wellness. And the wonderful thing is that when you're in the bath, you can have someone else helping you. You can have someone else hand your baby down to you once you're already in the bath, and you can just let them, you know, kind of sit down in the water with you. You want to make sure, you know, the temperature is good for baby. But personally, I wish I had taken a photo, but, you know, I didn't have my phone in the bathtub with me, but because I wanted nothing to do with my phone. But as soon as I put him down in the water, he like lit up, you know, because they're so familiar with being in water. They just spent, you know, 10 months in water inside of you. And he was able to just kind of float in there with me while I held him. And I just lightly rinsed him a little bit. You know, it's not an actual bath. Like, you're not bathing, you're just soaking, and you're just healing. You're just sitting in the warm water and just laying there in peace. And it's wonderful. So I highly recommend for both you and for baby. You guys will both enjoy it as long as you are able to sit in a tub and get in a tub. It depends on how your birth went. But if all went well to where you're allowed to get down in water, I highly recommend that. The other main things that, you know, the main focus for the first 3 days is mom stays put. And I actually really struggle with that part because, you know, there's so many things that you want throughout the day, and it's hard to like essentially boss people around, be like, I need you to get me this, I need you to get me that. And some people thrive with that, I get that, but I really have a hard time with it. And I find myself just not asking for things. And you really have to remind yourself that this is that time where you do need to ask for things, and you deserve to ask for things. And it's okay for someone else to make your tea for you, because I'm still drinking my the same teas that I drank throughout pregnancy. I'm going to drink them for the next couple months. They are so, you know, like wellness packed, and they help me feel so hydrated. They help with healing. It's all the wonderful things. And the first day I didn't ask anyone to make it for me, because I was like, oh, you know, it's a bit of a process and you got to do this and that. And I was like, this is absurd. Like, they can make me tea for a couple days, and then I'll go back to making it myself. So I'm learning to be okay with, you know, delegating the things, you know, you need to ask for the things that you need. And it's okay. It's just a couple days of, someone else, really doing everything for you. And it's what you have to do, because the better you are at staying put, staying in the bed or staying on the couch or staying in place, other than the times you really have to get up. Like right now, I had to get up to go to the bathroom, and there's 50 things that I could do while I'm up. And I'm trying to just put my blinders on and not do a single one of them, other than I popped in this room to sit down and make this quick video. But, like, you got to let that stuff sit. You got to let it wait. And it is very challenging. So I struggle with that. That's a big part of the first, definitely first 3 days, is trying not to move as much as you possibly can. I always do the herbal soak in the bathtub. PeriBottles are non-negotiable. Have them in all of your bathrooms. If you have more than one bathroom, just have them there waiting for you. So I would get one per bathroom in your house. And you can do just warm water in your PeriBottle, and that's for after you go to the bathroom. It can help you use it to essentially like spray yourself down. And depending on what your healing is like, you're really going to want it. With my first birth, I had a lot of swelling and a lot of I didn't have any tearing, but I had a lot of swelling. So using any toilet paper with those first couple days, it was so much. So the PeriBottle was super helpful. With the second birth, every birth is going to be different, but with the second one, it's been so much better than the first one, that I've actually been able to just use, I still use the PeriBottles also, but I'm also able to use toilet paper. And you just kind of like, I guess the blotting is the word. You're not like, you're being very, very gentle still, but this time it's been very comfortable, I'm so thankful for that. So that's another big focus of the first couple days, PeriBottle in every bathroom, non-negotiable. Another one is diapers. I've talked about this in some of my other videos. I know it can be a rough subject. A lot of people just don't want to wear adult diapers, but I personally love them, especially for the first couple days, because it just gives you so much more security that you're not going to ruin your clothes. You're not going to ruin anything you sit on. And again, it all depends on what your healing specifically is like. With my first birth, I had a lot heavier bleeding, and it happened for a lot longer. But with the second one, the healing has been so different. Like, I've seen massive changes in my bleeding already within the first 3 days, to where I'm already at a point where I'm ready to just switch to just like a heavier liner and be done with the diapers. Whereas with my first birth, I wore them for at least a week, just because it was kind of back and forth with the healing. So you really have to gauge it with how you're doing. And the better you are at sitting and not moving, the quicker that healing is going to go. And a lot of times, even if you're progressing really well with your healing, if you suddenly have a day where you're like, all right, I'm going to start doing things, you can irritate it and see that bleeding really comes back and amplifies. And that is a huge sign that you need to sit your butt back down and stop doing stuff. So, wait it out as long as you can. Like, try to get to that good healing place. Try to get that healing to completely resolve, and then still give it a little bit more time before you start doing all the things. And I know it's a struggle. I'm literally battling with it every single day. I want to be cleaning or doing laundry or, all the things that you normally do in a day. And I'm just reminding myself that we can't be doing that right now. Another one, the first 3 days, is you're kind of spending all of your time monitoring how many times both you and baby are using the bathroom, which, sounds kind of goofy. But for baby, their bowels and their bladder are coming into play for the first time. So they're shifting from that immediate post-birth, you know, the meconium and everything's just wild, to suddenly their kidneys are coming into play, and then poop starts to change, and you spend a lot of your time monitoring bowel movements. I highly recommend just keeping a log in your phone, finding an easy way to keep track of it. So we're currently counting how many times he pees every day, how many times he poops every day, and then kind of the same thing for me, you know, and you want to monitor your hydration. You want to make sure that you're staying very hydrated, and, you know, do electrolytes or do whatever you need to do. My herbal teas are really helpful for hydration, because you not only lost a lot of fluids during birth, but you're also having your milk transition, and that's causing a lot of fluid changes. So we had baby on Monday. This is Thursday. Today is the first day where my colostrum is starting to shift to a different, like, I can tell that my milk is about to be in. So look up how to hand express, and it's a way where you can like see what is coming out of you. With this being my second baby, you know what I mean? It was just second nature to me. But with my first birth, I didn't really know what I was doing on how to gauge what is baby eating and what is coming out of my body. So I had to do some YouTube videos to really see how that works. But you want to look at how to kind of hand express yourself, because the second time it's taken me like 2 seconds to check, like, okay, is colostrum coming out? Great. And then today I was checking and I was like, all right, we're transitioning to milk. And it's easier for you to gauge if you're already familiar with how to do that yourself. Because otherwise, if you're just breastfeeding, it's hard for you to know what is baby actually eating, because a lot of times you don't see it these first couple days. You know, it's kind of vague. So you want a way to know what's coming out, and you can pump. I don't like to use the pump unless, you know, talk to your provider or lactation consultant. But typically, in my experience, my body was able to go through the transitions without needing the pump in the beginning. Because pumping can, you know, increase your supply if you're having issues with your supply coming in, but it can also overdo it. So you really have to find a balance with it. I highly recommend working with someone on that and not trying to navigate that by yourself, because it can be kind of tricky. So we're monitoring all the things, you know, and it's for mom too, because if you think about it, like, baby just went from being in your belly and pushing all of your insides to who even knows where. I felt like my insides were up to my nipples by the time I hit 38 weeks, and we ended up going 41 weeks. So it was just like, where are my insides? But you go from baby pushing all of those things to suddenly baby's gone, and now your uterus is shrinking back down, and you have all of this room to where your organs just kind of, I feel like, collapse back into your abdomen, and they're trying to readjust and trying to resituate. And one thing that I've noticed with both postpartums is going to the bathroom, you know, number 2, is a little bit interesting the first couple days, because it's almost like your body can't figure out how to navigate all of that. And that's going to be different for everybody. You know, every situation is going to be different, but you do really have to monitor that. I like to do magnesium personally, and you watch the foods that you're eating. You want foods that really move through easily. You want things that aren't going to promote you backing up. But those 2 things, I mean, we're currently on day 3 and I haven't gone to the bathroom yet. So that is my biggest goal for today, is to go to the bathroom at least once. And that's very normal. It can take 2 to 3 days for mom's bowels to refluctuate and readjust. And so if you're going through that, know that that is normal, but it is a high priority. You don't want it to keep extending for more and more days. You want to try to do things, you know, stay super hydrated, work on just some nice belly breathing. If your belly feels good, depending on how your birth went, just to like create some movement. Since we are being more static in the bed and in the couch, you can use your breathing in your belly to kind of help things shift and move. And then, like I said, the hydration, and then I like magnesium just to, you know, promote good muscle and, you know, movement, and to help soften stuff up a little bit. So that's today's big goal, which is always fun to focus your day around whether or not you go to the bathroom. Another one that's big, the first 3 days, is after birth contractions. And this will be different depending on, this is baby number 1, baby number 2, baby number 3. If you're watching this, you're probably baby number 1, I would assume, but it depends, you know, anyone can watch this video. So after birth contractions will often kick in when you're breastfeeding baby, and it's essentially while you're feeding, you're gonna feel like cramping sensation around your pelvis, your uterus. It can feel like, I've had it twice now with 2 births, and it's felt different birth 1 to birth 2. The other thing is, as you progress, as you have more births, it often gets more intense. And I've definitely noticed that the second time is more intense than what I remember from birth number 1. There's a couple things you can do for it. Talk to your provider about what they recommend, what they tell you. What I personally lean into, the first time I didn't have to do anything. I was able to just, it was fun. So I didn't take anything. I wish I had bought the After Ease. So it's a product called After Ease. I'll put it down in the description. And it's just like a tincture with herbs that help with that pain specifically. And you can take it multiple times throughout the day, kind of as needed. And I found it to be really helpful. I'm very thankful to have it the second time. And like I said, I didn't take it the first time just because I didn't have it the first time, but I wish I did. So if this is your first birth, I would still highly recommend having it on hand. There are other things you can do. That's just what I lean into. I like leaning into more natural options. What is the most basic thing, you know, for my body that I can take? And it has been working well. Even with taking that, I'm still feeling them, but it dulls it to where it's comfortable enough for me to work through it and get through it, which has been really good. I'm trying to think if I'm forgetting anything. And that sounds really basic, but that's literally all you can handle the first 3 days after birth, because you have a newborn whose sleep schedule is going to be erratic. Day 1, they'll likely sleep really well because they're going to be exhausted from birth. Birth is hard on them, just like it's hard on you. But don't be surprised if day 2, they don't sleep as well, because, you know, they're going through these hormonal shifts and body shifts just like your body is. So day 1, he was so conked out that I actually had to repeatedly wake him up to feed him because I'm trying to get him to eat every like 1 to 3 hours, depending on, you know, how it's going. So I had to wake him up most of the time day 1. Day 2, he wanted to eat 24/7. It's kind of called like cluster feeding. He essentially constantly just wanted to be on the breast and feeding. And we realized about halfway through the day, he took a really, really big pee for the first time, you know, because they're just kicking into gear for the first time. So if you find that your baby's really fussy, it might just be like a bowel movement or a new thing that they're trying to work through. So, you know, don't take it personal. You know, talk to whoever you're working with, talk through those things, but don't, you know, internalize those feelings like you're doing something wrong or you're not doing a good job with your new baby. Like, they're experiencing new things just like you are, and it's going to be hard. And so he was so fussy and so upset the second day if he wasn't eating. And that's hard as a mom, especially if it's your first time, to have a baby latched all day long. It can get really overwhelming. But just know that's temporary, and it's likely just that transition, because when they're still only getting colostrum, it's not, it's so good and so like fat packed and so wonderful. But it's still not quite the same as when your milk comes in, and when they have that full milk feeding, it tends to, conk them out, and it's a little bit different. So yesterday he had a very fussy day, and it was hard on me, to feel like he needed to be eating all day long, because you want him to be happy, you want him to be comforted. But we found that after he took that really, really big pee in the afternoon, he was calm the rest of the night. So I think a lot of that was just his discomfort of trying to work through learning how to pee, and getting those kidneys fired up and getting things going. So sometimes it is just things working through them. Sometimes they're just working through your emotions. Sometimes it's just, they were just born, it was a big event. So just know that these first 3 days can all three be totally different of how you're responding, how baby's responding, and try to just breathe through it and try to just relax, With sleep, we've had quite a few times where he doesn't want to sleep more than 20 or 25 minutes at a time. And that's really hard as mom, because you're not getting any sleep when baby's only sleeping like 20 minutes. That gives you time to attempt to get comfortable in bed, which is tough after just giving birth. Or it gives you time to pee, and then by the time you get back into bed, baby's already ready to eat again. But I've found a couple of times where he'll sleep from like midnight until like 2:30, or he'll do like a good 2 hour, and you need to make sure you sleep when they do get that sleep. You've got to have those, you've got to find the time. And if you're not getting any sleep during the night, you need someone to hold baby during the day, and you take a good 2 hour nap, because you don't want to be delirious. You don't want to be exhausted. That puts both you and baby at danger if you're not getting good sleep. You really have to monitor that. So it's a whirlwind of every day is going to be a little bit different. Whereas, like yesterday he was cluster feeding and it was very tiring. Today, he's been so much more relaxed. And like I said, I can notice that my milk is shifting, that everything that's kind of expressing right now is becoming more creamy and more milky looking. It's still yellowish, whereas the first day or two, it's more clear and that clear yellowish color. So I'm seeing that color shift. You're feeling it. You're gonna feel it from the day after you give birth to 2 days later. Your chest is going to essentially I feel like I've at least doubled in size from where that milk is filling in. With this being my second birth, it's a more comfortable transition so far. If it's your first time having your milk come in, it can be very uncomfortable sometimes. If it's extremely uncomfortable and you're having problems, you need to talk to someone. Talk to a lactation consultant. Talk to your provider. Ask them where you can get help. There's a lot of times free people, or clinics or providers who provide free care, just because it's so important that you get help. And I'm pretty sure there's a hotline that you can call 24/7 for breastfeeding support. I'll put it in the comments if I can find it, but if not, look that up. Because even if it's 2 o'clock in the morning and you are having a really hard time with breastfeeding, or your milk coming in, or clogged ducts, or anything, there's a phone number you can call. And there's always YouTube videos that you can troubleshoot, but just never feel like you're alone. There's someone who's able to help you. And whatever you're going through, a million other people have gone through it too. I know it feels like you're alone and it feels like no one else is experiencing it, but I promise you're not by yourself. This transition, like I said, though, has been so far much more comfortable. I think the rest of today and into tomorrow, it's going to really bring in that milk supply. So I'm going to see how that goes. But that is essentially a recap of how our first 3 days of postpartum are going. That's literally all we're focusing on, is eating, resting, hydrating, and trying to get sleep when we can. And I highly recommend doing the same, you know, and that's all you need to focus on. You don't need to worry about everything else. Put your blinders on. You don't see the laundry. You don't see the dishes. You don't see anything else. And, you know, try to get as much help as you can. I hope you do have some help. Someone to help you with the diaper changes, to help you, you know, make your tea and help cook you food and help just do those basic essentials that you don't need to be doing by yourself right now. But I am going to post our birth story in the next couple days. I'm excited to film this one. I'll probably have him in the video with me and just to talk about how it went. And it was a lot different than our first birth. So I'm going to talk a lot about how this home birth was different than home birth number 1. And my thoughts on whether we'll have a home birth number 3 and all the things. So I'm excited to make some more videos and just talk about real world stuff of what it's like going through postpartum, having a new baby, and all the things. And I know it can be overwhelming, but just know that you are not alone and you're feeling all the things that other moms are feeling too. And it's totally normal to have your feelings be like this all day long right now, just with, you know, how much your hormones are shifting and changing, and that it's completely normal to feel like you're riding a roller coaster right now. So I hope this video was helpful, and we'll have more coming your way.